By some sheer fluke, we at Classic Worlds have found ourselves the owners of three prestigious British classics: the Bentley Turbo R, the Aston Martin DB7 V12 Vantage and a Jaguar X350 XJ Saloon. So we thought we'd celebrate that fact with these three British icons from the 80s, 90s and noughties by taking them on a scenic drive through the Kent countryside to see which one we prefer.
But first, our friends at Lancaster Insurance are running monthly giveaways. You can win all sorts, from experience days to tools, restaurant vouchers and tech. So check the video description for full details and to enter.
So I find myself in the oldest of our British trio, the 1980s Bentley Turbo R. To be honest with you, it's the biggest and the most cumbersome, and I never really wanted to like it. See, when the Mulsanne came out in 1980, really Bentley had been reduced to nothing more than a more subtle grille on a Rolls Royce. But there was a plan afoot. David Plaistow, then managing director, told his engineers to have a bit of fun, sort of manifest with the Mulsanne Turbo in 1982, which kept the same 6.75 litre L series engine, but with a big Garrett turbo on top. But they did nothing to the suspension. It was a bit of a handful. The proposal was to make the suspension 10% stiffer, but then they were ordered to make it 50% stiffer. And when the Turbo R came out in 1985, the R standing for road holding, it was transformed. Basically what you had was a whole new category of vehicle, a luxury weapon that you could enjoy on a B road. A wide B road, but a B road. It didn't really matter that the Turbo R was based on the Mulsanne, which was based on the Silver Spirit, a revised version of the Silver Shadow out in the 60s, and the engine dates from the 1950s. Put it all together as a package, more than 30 years on, we've grown quite fond of it. The team love this car. I have to confess that I was a little bit meh about it. Thought it was a big cumbersome money pit. Switches are all different and nothing really flows. Everything's a little bit higgledy-piggledy in the design. It's not a mass-produced car. There are creaks and a few rattles. We have had to spend money on it. There's the odd oil leak. It's had to have some work on the brakes. But yet, that first drive just won me over straight away. Oh, it's so endearing, isn't it? It's so endearing. I absolutely love it. It's a big, big motor car, but it shrinks around you. It's just got almighty shove. It should be adequate, but this has around 320 horsepower. That's definitely more than adequate. Bentleys were all something special, and the Turbo R made them special again. The Aston's an enigma in a way. I love it to look at, but I don't particularly like it to drive. The sheer cost of keeping it fresh and keeping it running, I think, outweighs even the Bentley. The easiest to own is the Jaguar, and that's what you'd expect of the most modern car of the trio. But the one for theatre, the one to surprise you, abilities beyond its nature, is the Bentley. The Bentley's the one that surprises. The Bentley's the one that delights. So much more than the sum of its parts. And for a car that, oof, I just wanted to hate. I just can't. I just love it. Oh.
It's hard to imagine, given how highly regarded Aston Martin is today, that back in the 1980s, it really wasn't doing very well at all. Sales were low, profitability was even lower. It took the charismatic chairman of Victor Gauntlet to steer it through those troubled times, so that Ford took a 75% stake in 1987 and becoming eventual owners in 1991. And of course by that time they also owned Jaguar. And the head of Aston Martin by that point, Walter Hayes, realised that what Aston Martin needed was a sort of sub 100,000 car to sort of slot in and hopefully drive some volume. Shortly after Ford acquired Jaguar, it became clear that the F-Type project that was destined to replace the XJS just wasn't the right car for the job. Overweight and over budget. They basically presented back to the board a kind of cut down version of the S-Type, a much lower budget replacement based on the XJS. And it was that Aston Martin seized to use as the basis for the DB7. It was unveiled at the Geneva Motor Show in 1993 to much fascination and finally went on sale a year later. And the general reaction was good. Road testers of the day really appreciated the combination of ride and handling and of course that gorgeous Ian Callum pen styling. There were many, however, that lamented the lack of cylinders, so that was put right in 1999 with the V12 Vantage. With 420 horsepower, it really was a supercar machine, costing around £94,000, so no small beer, and it did pitch it up against some quite formidable supercar competition. I think that's kind of my problem with the V12, to be honest. I don't really understand what it offers over and above the straight 6 model. It's got more power, obviously, but you're saving, what, 0.8 seconds on a 0 to 60 dash? An extra 20 miles an hour to the top speed? I mean, who's going to use any of that in truth? To drive it, it's actually okay. The ride's very firm and the steering's heavy, but I quite like that. It gives it that sporting edge that you wouldn't necessarily get out of an equivalent Jaguar XJS or even XK8. But there are clearly compromises in this car. You can tell forward switchgear in the centre console. We've got Granada air vents, Jaguar steering column and stalks. The interior door releases are from a Mazda MX-5. The tail lights are from a Mazda 323. It's a real Bitzer car. There's no doubt about it that 20 years on, this fascia has not worn well. The driving position isn't great in this car, I have to say. There's nowhere for your left foot, which, if you're short like me, it's not the end of the world, but you do find yourself with your knee up here, and for a car with long distance cruising aspirations, it really kind of misses the mark in that regard. Clearly the compromises of the XJS packaging are showing through here. So, best of British? I don't know. There's just too many compromises for me that I can see the shortcuts they had to make, and yet one can't help but admire Aston Martin's ingenuity, their resourcefulness, and crucially speed with which they got the DB7 to market. Just over 2 years, over 9,000 units were sold in the 10 years the DB7 was on sale. In Aston Martin speak, that was transformative. The DB7 was a commercial success and it saved the brand. So the brand you see today, once dubbed one of the coolest brands in the world, is only here because of the success of this, the DB7. And for that, I think we should celebrate it very much as best of British. I really should point out that we have recently launched Aston Martin Driver Magazine, celebration of all things Astons, from the very classics right up to the modern day stuff. If you click on the link in the description, you'll see some fantastic subscription offers, so do go and check out the latest copy of Aston Martin Driver.
On the face of it, an X350 in the presence of a Bentley and an Aston Martin looks a little bit out of place. I mean, the Jaguar badge doesn't have the prestige of the other two. Its 4.2 litre V8 is the smallest and the least powerful engine here, and this was by far and away the cheapest car when it was new and today. What's more, it is the least interesting car of the three. If you drive past a crowd of people in a DB7 or a Bentley, people are going to look. In the XJ8, you're just another businessman. And to be honest, when I first drove this car, picking it up after its respray last year, I didn't fall in love with it either. The thing is, this car is so capable. The ride is fantastic. It's smooth and floaty. The interior is spacious and practical in a way that Jags of old just weren't. It's well made, it's luxurious. I've got the wood, I've got the leather, and all of it feels well screwed together, solid and well made. And the proof in the pudding is that our car's done 150,000 miles and everything still works and fits together perfectly. Apart from the sunglasses holder. What's more, by the time you get to this X350 generation, that 4.2 V8 is well refined, so the Nickersill liner issues, the X308 are well behind us, and in this aluminium chassis, it will do over 30 miles to the gallon. It's a fantastically well-rounded car, this. So why couldn't I fall for it? Well, in many ways, its sheer competence is why I didn't love the X350. It does everything so well and so effortlessly that it feels almost German. It really lacks a little bit of personality, that flawed character of Jags of old, or indeed of the other two cars here, that make you go above liking it to loving it. But, as with so many cars of this era, scratch below the surface and the character is there. Because once you're off the motorway, you're not wafting along at business speeds and you're on a twisty road, the X350 comes alive. Then there's the air suspension. Some manufacturers shy away from it because it is complex, it is costly to develop and then to maintain, and if you don't get it right, it's a nightmare. And in truth, at low speeds, the X350 doesn't get it right. It's a little bit choppy, it doesn't react to speed bumps and potholes very well. But get it up to speed on a twisting A or B road and all comes good. This car floats and wafts along like a big luxury saloon car should, but it handles with a nimbleness and a sharpness that some sports cars would aspire to. Certainly it's less intimidatingly heavy than the Bentley and less twitchy than the DB7. And what's more, when you settle down from your B-road bash and you just want to waft home, the Jag is the best car for it because it settles down, it cruises with aplomb, and it does over 30 to the gallon, as we've said. The DB7 and the Bentley are more special. They've got more character to them. Those are the cars that'll get you out of bed on a Sunday morning just to go for a drive, in a way that the XJ8 probably wouldn't. But when you're not getting up on a Sunday morning out of choice, when you have to get up on a Monday to Friday morning to go to work, the Jag is the best car for it because it's the most comfortable, it's the most refined, it's the easiest to live with. And yet because it's a Jaguar, it's got just enough character, just enough specialness in there to make you smile.
After a day cruising through Kent in our Brit bruisers, we all stepped out with smiles on our faces. The Turbo R, DB7 and X350 are no more direct competitors now than they were new, and whichever you prefer, there's a good chance the other two won't do it for you in quite the same manner. But whether you prefer the brutish charms of the Bentley, the exotic styling and exciting performance of the Aston, or the remarkable all-round abilities of the Jaguar, each of them puts a smile on your face, and each represents the values we look for in the best of British.